There's a lot to go through with your specific story that I was reading about, and COVID-19 really taking a toll on your family in the worst of ways. So tell me about that, and my condolences, by the way, about your mother-in-law, because I'm sure that can't be easy. Navigating a pandemic normally, and then dealing with the death of a close loved one.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's some things in life you just can't predict. One being the pandemic that the whole world couldn't predict, but as well as things like death. We're not the first people to go through it, but I think we've learned a lot, we've grown a lot, and we're continuing to kind of go through the process and process the whole situation. And it's a complete healing process. And of course, my mother-in-law, is my wife's direct mother, but we've all been impacted. She was a huge help to myself and my family, and we definitely feel her loss. We miss her dearly. Not only was she loving to her daughter, who's my wife, her other daughter, who's my sister-in-law, and who lives with us, full time now. But she was extremely impactful, outside of just her kids. And she had three kids. So she had um, uh, my wife's brother, and then my wife's little sister. And she loved her kids, but she was extremely impactful to so many other individuals. And I've shared this story to a few people, specifically when it happened. My wife and I have known each other for a decade now. We keep talking about it. We say, wow, time flies. But um, ever since I've met her, she's always told me about, how her mom was impactful and how her mom lived her life, prior to me ever being in the picture and knowing, her and and their whole family. And every single year since we've met, I meet somebody new, and that my wife says, okay, remember that story I told you about how mom helped that person with this and that? Yeah, this is that person right there. Da, 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 da. And it'll be that, and it'll be like a family. It'll be a couple individuals, and she took and she took people that she took in people to live with them, and she um, practically adopted kids and took them to family trips, so many different things. And this one thing that I recently remembered and I shared, that was really, really touching about my mother-in-law. And I just explained about some extreme things that she did for people to impact their lives and influence their lives and whatnot, and get them off their feet. Like things like helping a whole family that just immigrated to Canada, who lived in an apartment and had nothing in the apartment except for a mattress, maybe a family of five, I believe. And she helped them by giving them a job and paying them more than she really should have, but because she had such a heart of compassion. But that's an extreme thing that she would do. But she would do that kind of stuff when she had her business. She had a beauty supply business. Um, it's called Afro Beauty, and she was doing extremely well with it, and she was helping so many people. And the business crashed, but she was still impacting so many people. So like that stuff blows my mind. But the one thing that I do remember specifically, and this is after the business had crashed already, she, after the her passing, I remember specifically there was a flurry of calls that my wife would get because, like I said, she was extremely impactful and influential to so many people. And a lot of people wanted to, of course, express their condolences to my wife. And it got to a point where I told her, hey, listen, like, you're going to have to put the phone down because, as you can imagine, every phone call was her starting that conversation again, and it would be almost re opening that wound. And again, so I told her, you know what, you got to just pace yourself. You can get back to the calls at some point, but right now let's just relax, process it for yourself as well. So I literally shut off her phone. I took it and put it away, and which was good. And then she got back to it, and I remember, this is what I wanted to say. She got to her voicemails, and she was going through her voicemails, and she got into one particular one. And then everyone was saying, extending their condolences and, wishing us well. And extending, a helping hand however they could, and trying to, again, this is COVID, so there wasn't much people could do. But this one individual, this one young girl who had an encounter with my mother-in-law, she left a voicemail on my wife's phone, and my wife got to it, and the voicemail went simply like this. And the young girl was just literally crying, pleading to try and be a part of her healing, my wife's healing process, begging, literally, and I'm not exaggerating. She was begging to try and help my wife. And as she continued on her voicemail, she said, "Your mom was so touching to me. She was so encouraging, and it's just about how she made me feel." Every time, and she would see this girl. She didn't have a super deep relationship with her. She would see her on Sundays at church, and she said, "Your mom made me feel so good about myself every time. She always had the right words to say. I was going through some things, and sometimes I would share with her, but sometimes I wouldn't, but she would always have the right words to tell me. And please let me be a part. Let me tell me what I can do. I have to do something." She was such an amazing woman. And that was really touching to me, because um, it's one thing to be impactful to people, but it's another thing, especially when you have a lot and your business is successful. But when you don't have that title, you don't have that kind of influence, and you don't really have the financial resources as you used to have, but you're still able to relate to people. You're still able to impact others the way that she did. That was really touching to me, and it reminded me of one of my favorite quotes that says, um, you know, uh, people won't remember the things that you say to them as much as they'll remember how you make them feel. And that was, it's the epitome of that quote. And so, to me, it was extremely touching. But that's the kind of woman she was. And so, beyond just her daughter, her daughters, her son-in-law, she was an amazing woman to everyone she got in contact with.
That's fantastic to hear. And, it must be like from what you're describing, a major, major loss to not only your family, but the community from what you're saying. And how has it been? It was exactly, it was June. And just,
Yeah,
can you tell me the pronunciation as well of her name so that I could,
Elizabeth. Yeah, Elizabeth Twanaboa.
okay. And so it's been since June. What has life been like, since then? I mean, your wife is pregnant at the time. Now she just gave birth, and you're going through, a growing family while you lose somebody so close to you. How do you bounce back from that and heal?
Um, it's one step at a time. But it definitely changed a lot, as far as the dynamics is concerned with my family. And again, like being a professional athlete, playing in Montreal, living in Toronto, my mother-in-law, after we had purchased our house, my wife and I, we, finished our basement, and we said, "Hey, look, um, we asked her if she could move in, because so she could help with our daughter at the time, who was just born." And so our daughter's turning 3, so it would have been 3 years ago. Um, she was just born as well, and me leaving kind of the city for half of the year for the season, football season, the best suited person was who else than my wife's best friend and mother, to kind of help. And so it was extremely comfortable, but it allowed the flexibility for me to kind of be to play anywhere. And if anybody knows anything about pro football and pro sports, period, that kind of stuff happens. But knowing that, hey, I'm away, but my wife is receiving help from my mother-in-law, it was really good and comforting for me. And so, um, we made it work, obviously, with my our small family, and my wife would come visit quite often, with our daughter Thea, and I would come back as much as I could as well. And of course, like I said, she was extremely helpful. Um, so losing her was definitely a huge impact to us. However, we're drawing strength and inspiration from her life, and one of the things that we've been doing to just process everything and heal has been just leaning on each other. Um, I know it's allowed us to kind of develop extremely um, between ourselves, between our relationship and our marriage. I think it's forced us to grow in ways that we never imagined. But it's opened up to a lot of conversations that we never really had even before. So, as far as vulnerability is concerned, as far as, effective communication is concerned, I think that, it's been tremendous. And so, even when bad things or terrible things and tragedies and traumas and happen in life, I think it's important to try and draw strength and try and draw something positive out of it. And if anything, that's what's been able to happen. And of course, like you mentioned earlier, Alicia, like right when my mother-in-law was diagnosed with COVID and she checked into the hospital was literally the time when we had found out that my wife was pregnant with our second. And so, lo and behold, um, you know, my wife just delivered literally 6 days ago. So, to our new baby girl, and we know she's a bright light even in a dark time that we've all been experiencing, and we're enjoying it, and we're extremely happy about that.
What's your new baby girl's name?
Her name is Ada. Ada, and in
Ada.
Hebrew it means beautiful ornament.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. And
Thank you.
so she's born now. We're looking ahead as a year of 2021 being a year of hope, possibly. Hopefully. That's the goal, right? And do you still have hope of a good year? Because of course, 2020 it, took away a family member of yours, took away your football season. I'm sure football is I'm sure a guiding light in your life as well. So how does that make you feel, just looking back, having missed out on an opportunity to play because of COVID and having lost a family member? How does that all work out for you, and what's your outlook for the future?
Definitely hopeful. And the reason why I say that has been, and one of our coping mechanisms throughout, this whole situation for us has been we're a family of faith. And so our faith has been extremely, definitely helpful, but it's been our backbone, this whole time. It's definitely been tough. Having to go through what we went through, but the message about our faith as Christians is that there is hope, right? In Christ. And so it's been amazing for us, and we're relying and leaning on that, and hoping for the best going forward. Like I said, we're growing as we're going through what we're going through. And It's been amazing. So um as far as football is concerned, I think that I've had some great mentors in my life, and I lean on these people to kind of help me throughout my whole journey. I've been a professional athlete for 9 years. My next year playing is going to be 10. So it's a blessing in and of itself. But one of the things that I learned early on, and I try to share it with a lot of the young guys that I meet now, because I'm the older guy in the locker room now. But one of the things I share to them is about identity. And so you have to know your identity, because and you have to separate your identity from what you do. So who you are is not what you do. And so I think because of that, I was able to kind of not necessarily crumble. Of course, I love football. That's why I still play. That's not one of those things you do if you don't love. But not having football in my life didn't crush me, because I think I know who I am, and being able to have the right people around me, specifically my wife, being so supportive, my family being encouraging, even throughout this tough time, I think has been able to help me, as well as my faith. And so, one of the other things that COVID, again, I talk about always being able to find the positive, even in the negative situations. What COVID has allowed for me specifically to do is to touch on the things that I've always planned on doing, wanted to do, but I was too busy with football, prepping for football, doing other stuff, family things and whatnot. But COVID had, gave me a lot of times, and I had already started with a little project, a passion project of mine, a podcast that I feel is going to be tremendous. It's a blessing to other people. One of the things that my wife and I always say, in our life's mission statement, our marriage mission statement, is grow and help grow. And everything we try to do, we try to grow as we help others grow as well. And my podcast is an example of that as well. And it's called Muamba Moments. And I sit down with individuals and we discuss the lessons that they've learned along the way. And it's all, been successful individuals. And I've created the platform to kind of help other people grow, but I'm growing tremendously as we're going through it. We talk about some great topics like fear, resiliency, and we talk about even mental health, and we talk about how to comfort people who have lost people. So it's been amazing, amazing, and I'm helping as much. I'm growing as much as I'm trying to help other people grow. So I'm excited about that. I've been busy with that. I'm working on getting my foundation off the ground, which will allow for me to kind of bring football into the Congo, which is a country that I was born in. And I'm a motivational speaker, so I still do some speaking as well. So I kept myself busy, and I'm doing a bunch of different things, and I'm creating programs. I got a mentorship program that I'm running as well. I just started, and I'm going through the first group with, so I'm keeping myself busy all the while still. Doing my best to tend to the people that are dear and close to me, specifically with everything that's happened.
That is so inspiring. And I love that quote that you mentioned, grow and help grow. That was like, wow, that was touching for me just to listen to that. And it's inspirational hearing you because, you had a year of different hardships. And, some people, it's either fight or flight. They have a hard time dealing with it, and you're taking that experience to help you heal and grow. And that's super, super inspirational. And I feel like it's almost like you're adapting. You said you didn't have football that year. Of course, that might be a financial burden on you as well. But you're taking your different opportunities and doing the things you've always loved to do or wanted to do.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so again, like I'm a motivational speaker. I can't help but be super motivational. Everybody that knows me knows that. Always call me out on it. They always say, "Hey, okay, so when did this turn into more of a moments kind of thing?" Whenever we have a conversation, so that's just who I am inside. But like I think one thing that I also want to put out there is the fact that and this is what I'm realizing even as I'm growing right now, even as we're going through these conversations with my wife, and like I said, effective communication and conversations that have been super beneficial for our marriage and myself individually. But I've had a lot of things go really well in my life. I feel like God's blessed me with so many blessings, and whether it's being drafted first overall, being able to play in the NFL, and achieving some things that uh, a lot of people may think that are seem impossible. And a lot of times people look at me as this perfect being and this guy who does things well. Like the truth is, like, I have made mistakes, I've fallen and I failed. And I know that a lot of times, even in the course of my life, I've felt like I've always had to maintain that level of expectation. And it's not until we have been going through what we're going through that and the communication with my wife and conversations with my wife, that I've kind of started to become comfortable with not being perfect, comfortable with not always having the right thing to say. And that stemmed from, going through what we were going through. And there was a time where I was having a hard time because I didn't know necessarily what to say to my wife as she was grieving. And it wasn't until recently, really, we started to share and talk some more. And a lot of great things came out of it. But like one of the things that I've kind of learned as of late and recently is that it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to always have the right things to say. And so as I'm growing, I just want to help others grow as well. So creating the platform is one of the things that I'm trying to do, the foundation, as well as the programs that I'm working on. But most importantly, man, I want to be able to be there for my wife as much as I can, my family as much as I can, but at the same time, to the best of my ability. And I do my best, and I allow God to do the rest.